Every 2 seconds, a girl is given up for marriage somewhere in the world. Every 2 seconds, somewhere in the world, a girl is given up for marriage. But dwelling on that misery is not the reason of my presence with you today. Instead, I would like to invite you to change the narrative. Once upon a time, somewhere in West Africa, Ear had grown to become a beautiful woman ready for marriage. Now, traditions required that everyone was to be invited in society. So on that day, everyone was there. From the most powerful spirits in the universe to the most powerful animals in the kingdom. Lion, rhino, elephant, even mosquito. When it came his turn to publicly propose, he said, "You are the most beautiful creature that I know. I believe I am the most important person in this audience. That's why I would like to marry you. Together, I believe we can achieve more than we expect." He was probably waiting for a positive response. Instead, Ear looked at him with disgust and said, "Who do you think you are? How dare you stand in front of this beautiful audience and believe that I will marry you? You're little. You're insignificant. You have no power. Your place is not here. Just go away." Hurt, broken, mostly humiliated, Mosquito flew away. But from that day on, he woke every day to buzz in people's ears. On one side of the story, we have one lesson of decision-making in the life of a young woman. And on the other side of the story, Mosquito teaches us about the power of perseverance, even in the face of hardship. Everyone hates mosquitoes for their nuisance, for the diseases they bring, but I bet some of you today somehow feel some respect for that little animal, for his message in this story. Never give up. All across Africa, 65% of the population is aged under 30. Have you ever wondered what Africa would be if those 65% had access to quality education and adequate healthcare services and security? I know, because I was given the chance to make it. I come from a very wealthy family. My grandmother, at her time, never had access to education, but she never questioned my mother and her sisters going to school. My mother, in return, made sure that the best investment she could do was in the education of her daughters, my two little sisters, and myself. My father helped her in that mission, but that's not what I remember of him. What I keep from my dad is that one morning he was taking me to school, and we were late, and as we were driving, of course, our cars was probably not the most beautiful one on the road, and the fastest one. All the cars were just passing by and seemingly reaching wherever they were going faster than where we tried to go. As a teenager and out of frustration, I said to him, "Why can't you just press on the gas so we can go faster?" He didn't say anything at first. And then he said, "You know, Borso, wherever you need to go, I promise I will take you." And that's what he just did. And that's why I'm standing in front of you today. I carried that with me all my life. As I carried culture, as I carried other storytellings, would you like to hear another one? Yes. Would you like to hear another one? Yes. Donkey had one time accidentally fallen in a well. And he screamed for help. And when the villagers gathered, they attempted to help him out. The idea was to tie a rope around him and pull him to the surface. After many attempts, they decided that it was not worth the try. And in disbelief, he heard them say, "He's too heavy. He's too old. He may not be of any use to us anymore. So let us just bury him alive and turn the page and move forward." He screamed in pain because he could not believe that after all these years of service, this is what he deserved. After a long time screaming, there was silence. The villagers leaned towards the well to find out that every single sand that they threw on his back, he shook it off, stamped on it, and allowed himself out to the surface. He never gave up on himself. I can continue with stories like that, and really, it's not only West Africa, it's all across Africa. I carried all that privilege with me, and I tried myself to make it in society. I attempted communication studies. I attempted journalism. I attempted even social work, but I failed. I failed because I got carried away with my own frustrations in society. And the day I heard one of my mentors say to me, "Do what matters to you," I packed my things and I returned back to Senegal. And there I registered again in social work. And not only did I get my degree, I carried on to a first master's degree in English studies. And today I'm here as a Chevening scholar, reaching out to another master's in equality and human rights. I never gave up. When I became a social worker, I did not wait to be hired. I created my own job environment. I want to teach human rights in schools. And to the skeptics, I convinced that through literature, I could convey my message about human rights. So I taught for a couple of years. And from activity to activity, we went from having a club to a larger network called today Young Advocates for Human Rights. In the process of making that happen, we had to choose symbols that would allow us to carry on in the face of adversity. One of them was in 1820, when a group of women in the northern part of Senegal were attacked by neighboring enemies. Their king was absent, and the men realized that only women were probably there and that they could come and attack. Those women went to dress as men. They used the clothes of their husbands, of their sons and brothers, and they fought back. They fought back and they won the battle. They cheered, And those men realized that these were actually women. They came back, more willing to fight them and hurt them and make them slaves. When the women realized what was taking place, they chose death over humiliation and slavery. They set fire in the huts of the village, and they threw themselves in there. That's the legacy we grow up with. That's the heritage we keep from West Africa. And that's what I carry with me as a young woman to engage, to equip, and to empower every youth that comes to me and who becomes members of the network. Our mission is simple. Build bridges between young people aged 6 to 35. Yes, 35 is still young in our communities. So from the root up, the idea is to prepare them to become better citizens, to train them in human rights, so they can serve in their communities. We organize fundraisings so we can have the money to go and expand the word to those who have less access to quality education, and therefore less access to human rights education. The road can be very long and bumpy, and realities are there. As we speak, we have more than 20,000 young men and women from 2014 to today who have died trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea because they believe that opportunities are out of their countries. As we speak, sexual harassment and abuse against women is a reality. As we speak, more than 50,000 young children are left unattended in the streets of Senegal. They are called talibés. They're very little. They can go really very small toddlers to young adolescents. They have little clothing on themselves. They're known for not wearing shoes. And I would like to share one anecdote in my early years of social work. When I first worked with this youth center, one of my major projects was to make sure that each one of them had shoes to wear. And I made a huge fuss out of it. And one day the accountant called me and said, "We've heard you, Borso. We have ordered shoes for them, but just do me a favor. Observe them." So after a week and a half, one of my coworkers ran to me and said, "You have to come and see what's happening." So I came and I saw all the children in the courtyard playing. That was normal. But one game caught my attention. Those children were taking the shoes that we bought for them a week ago, and they would aim very high and throw them in the air, and the winner of that so-called game is the one who would achieve taking the shoes to the rooftop. That was a game, and it was fun for them. I laughed with them, but I learned from them. Yes, they need the basics. Yes, they need clothing, they need food, they need protection, they need shoes. But what they mostly need is the right context, and that is to get them out of the streets. In the process, I call every actor not to give up because realities are there and it's very difficult. Today, millions of young people wake up every morning to witness opportunities take place abroad. That's the reason why they're trying to go by any means necessary. They wake up every morning to internet. They wake up to see the chances that their peers have in other areas of the world where they cannot reach. They wake up every morning with their own desires that they cannot fulfill because of the region where they live. we need to tackle those issues one by one. We need to make sure that every young person has the right to opportunities. I would like to dig deeper in my suitcase of stories and take out this one about a man who was witnessing another from afar taking starfish and throwing them back into the ocean. In curiosity, he approached and said, "What are you doing?" And the man said, "I'm trying to save them. Can't you see? There are thousands of them in here." The man said, "You're wasting your time. There are so many of them, there's nothing you can do." To that, the man said, picked one, looked at him, and you said, "This one, saved." Whatever we do, we must never give up. But mostly, we must change the narrative. Thank you very much.